This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's going on, everybody? As we all know, mental health is a huge piece for me. And recently, as I become a better version of myself, I've decided that it's time for me to go to therapy because I understand how life can be a little overwhelming and we all need help navigating through the trenches of military service and out of uniform. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, all you got to do is go to their site. Matter of fact, you can use my link right here. Answer a few questions and BetterHelp will match you with a professional who has years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or computer via phone call or video chat or messaging, however you feel most comfortable. It's the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You will be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you all from the comfort of your home. Visit betterhelp.com/meechspeaks and enjoy a special discount on your first month.
I want to say something. A prize, motherfucker.
Leave me alone. Go out west. Give me your phone. Going out west.
What's going on, everybody? It's that ordinary podcaster with the extraordinary thoughts that tells you to stop being great and be extraordinary. I'm Demetrius Thigpen, also known as Meech Speaks, and welcome back to another episode of the Talking Crazy podcast. Now, before we get started with this podcast, don't forget to head on over to your favorite streaming platform, whether that's Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, and leave this podcast an honest review, because this podcast deserves to grow just as much as we do. All right, so what's going on, everybody? It's the first Monday of December. You know what that means. This is the last month before the new year. And I'm going to just ask a question real quick. What has this year taught you? You know what I mean? Like, what has this year been teaching you? Has it been trust? Has it been accountability? Has it been love? Has it been boundaries? What has this year? Because I already know that a lot of us are going to go into the new year with a New Year's resolution. Now, if you know me, you know for a fact that in the beginning, I never really cared too much about New Year's resolutions because I believe that, you got 365 days every new morning to get your shit together. Why start at the end of the new year? Now, that has changed. I do believe in New Year's resolutions. I do believe that, you want to start the new year with a goal. You want to start the new year with a purpose. And that always relates back to what you have learned throughout that entirety of that year that previously occurred, if that makes sense. But what has this year taught you? What has 2024 taught you? Is it boundaries, putting that line in the sand? You know what I mean? Is it accountability, whether that's with yourself or with other people? Is it trust? Trust in your abilities, trust in others' abilities? Is it love? You know what I mean? Like, is it learning to love yourself a little bit more? Learning to give love a little bit more? What has it taught you? And I ask that, man, because I really would love to know. But I will tell you this. The one thing that 2024 has fucking taught me is to be selfish. And I'm going to say that again. The one thing that 2024 has taught me is to be selfish. All right. This year has punched me in the face so many times. And each time that I got punched in the face, it was because I chose to put myself second when I knew I should have put myself first. I know for a fact that I should have said no, but I was just like, you know what? It's okay. As long as everyone else is happy. I've went broke on so many occasions to make everyone else happy when I had to reap those repercussions later on down the road. You know what I mean? I had to reap that. I've compromised my own happiness for the sake of everyone else. I've sat back, upset with myself, cried, been frustrated, been unhappy, just to see a smile on someone else's face. And to be honest with you, that just doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't sit right with me. So I'm going to call it right now. My New Year's resolution is probably going to be just to be a little bit more selfish. That's all. And I bring that up, man, because if you know me, you know that I've probably talked about this topic before very early on in the podcast, but I don't know who need to hear this. But selfish people are much happier. I'm going to just say that real quick. Selfish people are much happier, okay? They're not afraid to draw that line in the sand. They're not afraid to put themselves first. They're not afraid to, if they walk in a room and they don't like how the vibe going, they're going to address it. Why? Because they have put themselves first. They make themselves the priority. And I just really want to just talk to whoever is listening right now, because I don't know how you feeling. You know what I mean? Thanksgiving done passed. You hosted Thanksgiving. You done put all the food on the table. Everybody took your shit and left you scraps. How you really feeling about that? You know what I mean? Christmas coming around the corner. You done put so much money into buying gifts, making time to go on leave, booking plane tickets, driving around to see everybody else. You let me know how you really feeling about that. Let me know how you really feeling about the simple fact that you have put yourself second on so many occasions because society told you that you should, because you didn't want to be the negative energy in the room, because you wanted to make everybody else happy. You wanted to do right by the Marines. You wanted to do right by the command. You wanted to accomplish the mission. Go ahead, man. Like, tell me how many times you put yourself fucking second, but for some reason, man, like you just not feeling like, you don't feel like you did the right thing. You feel like you should have just put yourself first. You feel like you got played. You feel like everybody doesn't appreciate you. You feel like they're ungrateful. And if you feeling like that, you're not alone. And for that, this episode is dedicated to you, is dedicated to me, and is dedicated to whoever is putting themselves second, because as we go into the new year, you know what I mean? As we close out this last month and walk into the new year, one thing that we not about to keep doing is putting ourselves second. Let's go ahead and start this episode. Now, one thing that we have been taught, and I'm talking about from a young age, you know what I mean? We have been taught that being selfless is noble. You know what I mean? We've been taught that being selfish, that's bad. Don't be selfish. Well, I'm going to just explain this real quick. All right. If we're in a community and you're hoarding food from the community because you don't want to fucking share. Yeah, I get that. I completely understand that. If you're using the last of the money to spend it on yourself when you know for a fact that you got kids, you got responsibilities, you were supposed to take care of this, then I completely understand. But being selfish is also putting yourself first. And the reason why you need to be putting yourself first, let me rephrase that. The reason why you need to be making yourself the top priority is because how can you really attend to everyone else? You know what I mean? How can you truly be there for everyone else when you're constantly running on fucking E? You're constantly a second priority, and it's not even on everybody else's list. It's on your fucking list as well. And because of that, you're burnt out all the time. You lack motivation. You don't want to do it. You develop resentment. You really can't stand these motherfuckers. You feel like they ungrateful. And it affects your actions, your mood, your emotions, and just how you move forward with things. But you were told in the very beginning that being selfish was bad. Well, I'll tell you right now, being selfish, when it comes down to your well-being, ain't nothing bad about that. Now, one of the biggest things is always going to be what it looks like when you neglect yourself. Let me rephrase that. What is the cost of neglecting yourself? You know, because I can't tell you how many times I, for a fact, have put myself second. I don't know how many times I've neglected myself. I don't know how many times where I've said like, hey, I'll get to it, but never really get to it when it comes down to me. But what does that cost look like? And everybody already knows what burnout looks like, you know what I mean? And how burnout can come to effect. You know, being in the military, especially 15 years being in the military, I've gotten the luxury to experience multiple things and multiple ways of burning out, especially because I've been working hard. You know, recruiting duty. Recruiting duty has worked me to the fucking bone, and I ain't even been out here that long, you know? And it's getting to a point where it's like, dang, I don't even want to make a phone call. I don't even want to talk to this person because I've done it so many times. McMap, if you know me, you know that I used to love McMap. But when you do it so much, it's like, oh my gosh, why is this such a chore now? Basic things in life. When it gets to a point where you're constantly putting yourself second, you feel like the things that used to bring you joy or things that you would strive for, it almost feels like, bro, like, why the fuck do I even have to do this? Another good example, and I'm going to just be honest with you, I ain't even about to go for the common ones anymore. I'm about to talk about the ones that we kind of shy away from, okay? Putting your family first. And I know somebody gasped when I said that real quick, but sometimes you got to be selfish when it comes down to putting your family first, okay? Because just like what I said in the very beginning of this episode, how can you be there for everybody else if you're constantly being, you're running on empty on a regular basis? But what we're taught is that family has to come first. If you're a man, you already know you gotta provide. That's all you there for. You know what I mean? You gotta spend money. You gotta put food on the table. You gotta make sure everybody else is taking care of your emotions, your feelings, and how you are going on about your day. That's something that you could deal with on the back end. But we all know that that's not necessarily good. You put yourself second in that relationship, whether that's with your spouse or with just family in general, and now you burnt out. You done put yourself first how many times with your kids? And I ain't saying be a bad parent, but at the exact same time, you're about to be a bad parent because you ain't even got the energy to be a good parent. And a good example of this, and I would just say this real quick, for those who have kids in daycare, all right, when you get off work early, all right, and just hear me out real quick. For those who have kids in daycare, when you get off work early, right, do you go straight to pick up them kids? I'm going to keep it a buck with you real quick. When I had a babysitter, and they would watch my children and I would get off work early, I did not go straight to the house. Fuck no. I paid that person for the whole day. I'm about to get my money's worth. And the reason why I wouldn't go straight to the house, I would take a couple of hours to myself and just decompress, is because I already knew that if I would have went straight home, especially after coming getting off work and having that time with them, I wasn't going to be 100%. I wasn't going to be that dad that they really needed. But a lot of us will immediately go straight there. On that topic with family, how many of us, as we talk about the holidays, how many of us are getting ready to break the bank for family? We about to spend money that we know we don't fucking have. We about to book trips that we know for a fact that could be later. We about to fly across the country, get a rental, drive all over everybody else's house. And we're told that that's what we're supposed to do because we're in the better situation. You know what I mean? We ain't seen them in a while, so we need to make those necessary trips to get there. I'm going to just tell you real quick because I don't know who need to hear this. They ain't seen you in a while either. Before you buy that ticket, have they bought a ticket to come see you? And we ain't got to be petty. You can go back home. I ain't trying to be petty. But before you go to everybody's house, ask them real quick, like, why they just can't come see you? You see how you quick to put yourself second? And this ain't your captain speaking from his high horse. This is your captain speaking from Experience Airlines flying on in. I can't tell you how many times I would buy that ticket from California to fly to Detroit, Michigan to go to everybody else's house. And I should have just said, hey, can y'all come see me? I'm burnt out on my own fucking vacation. And I'm walking away from the vacation. Instead of being well rested, I'm kind of feeling exhausted. And I bring that up because of the simple fact of how many times do we choose to do that and not even realize it? But we were told that, you in a better position. You should keep doing that. Another example of what that cost of neglecting yourself may look like: overworking to prove dedication. And I'll say that again, overworking to prove dedication. How many of us in this room real quick, or in this car real quick, or just listening real quick, have stayed late to prove that we are part of the team? You know what I mean? How many of us have sacrificed our lunchtime, came in early, stayed late to get the job done? But we're going to ignore the fact that job would have been there Monday. We're going to ignore the fact that job would have been there tomorrow, though. But we did it just to show everybody, yeah, I'm a hard worker. Yeah, I get the job done. How many times have you did that, though? Not realizing that every time you chose to put work first, you sacrificed time with your family. How many times did you say to yourself, hey, man, I'm the best doing this? But in your journey, in your conquest to be the best doing this, you became the worst in other things. you know? Terrible father, terrible husband, terrible friend, just terrible in general, but you were the best at the job. How many times? And you told that if you keep grinding, you keep working, you're going to get those good pros and cons. You're going to get that good fit rep. You're going to get that promotion. You're going to get that raise. But you lost time that you will never be able to get back. You tired now. You burnt out now. All for what? And you know, just like I know, because you've been in that situation before, that after it's all said and done, you realize that it ain't even fucking worth it. And you know what's so crazy is that I had a conversation while I'm on recruiting duty with one of the top recruiters. And he was telling me, I went up to him. I was like, man, I didn't know you was that good. You got all these awards. And he looked me dead in the face and he told me, he's like, none of this shit means anything. Like when I go back to the fleet, none of these awards will really mean anything. All they are is just a reminder of the time that I gave up with my family. All they are is just a reminder of the mental health that I gave up, the weight that I put on, the stress that I acquired. All of that don't mean anything to me. And that shit stuck with me. You know what I mean? Like it really stuck with me because I have that, put myself on a pedestal, hold myself to a high standard. But at what cost? To be great, but be mediocre at other things? To suck at other things, but I'm great here at work? How many of us have done that? Not realizing that you have put yourself in second priority. My favorite one, and this is the one that kind of sits with me, being nice. And I don't know who need to hear this, but how many of us have really made ourselves second priority, neglected our well-being? You know what I mean? Because we wanted to be nice. We didn't want to hurt the feelings. We didn't want to kill the vibe in the room. We didn't want to make trouble. We didn't want to be, a ruckus amongst the team. Let me rephrase that. You didn't want to jail with the team. Come on, man. Like how many of us have chose to be nice when we should have told them that I'll smack the teeth out of your fucking mouth? How many times have you smiled? You know what I mean? Like you smiled and shrugged your shoulders like, it's okay. When you know you should have told him, if you say that to me again, I'm going to hem you up by your collar. Don't talk to me like that. How many times have we chose not to do that? Because we didn't want to be the negative energy in the room. We didn't want to, we wanted to mesh well with the team. We didn't want to be a problem. Not realizing because you chose to put yourself second. And I apologize. I'm getting a little riled up because this one hit home. You chose to put yourself second, thinking that you was doing everybody a service. Not realizing that you have now created a baseline for how everybody is going to treat you. Not realizing that they have now established a way of how they going to talk to you. How they going to communicate with you, whether that's physical, verbal, or just body language in general. You should have fucking cussed their ass out. You should have chewed them out. You should have pulled them off to the side. You should have addressed it, but you chose not to. And in doing so, you put them as the priority and you put yourself second. Now you don't even want to be around them. That friendship that possibly could have flourished between you because you have now had a solid boundaries between each other, that'll never happen. You kind of resent them. You don't like them that much because you know that they talk to you like you fucking crazy. And you know that you should have been said something. And when you finally do, everybody going to be looking at you like, why he blowing it out of proportion, knowing that this was long overdue. Everybody tell you that you should work well with others, be coachable, be a team player. But the thing is that being a team player also means that you have to have boundaries. Being a team player also means that you got to be a priority at some point in your life because you're not going to show up well. Let me rephrase that. You're not going to be authentic around them. How are you going to be able to work with everybody if you're allowing them to walk all over you? Now, we've already talked about the cost of what neglecting ourselves looks like. You know what I mean? Like what that cost is. But what are the signs that we're neglecting ourselves? And I'll say the first one, man, is always going to be that chronic fatigue. You know what I mean? Like you constantly tired, bro. You know, and you know for a fact you just got a good night's sleep. Let me rephrase that. You know for a fact that you had a long night's sleep, but for some reason you still tired. You coming off of a 96, and we all coming off of a 96, you know, and for some reason you still a little fatigued. That's because you're stressed out. That's because you've been thinking this entire time of what you got to do. You worried about situations that haven't occurred, but you know they're going to occur anyway. You put yourself second so much that you don't even get a good night's rest. Another sign is just unhealthy habits. You either skip at meals or you overeating. You probably picked up cigarettes again. You're probably smoking. You're probably drinking more. You're probably doing things that you normally wouldn't do, but because you're stressed out, you burnt out, you feeling a certain way, you got some shit on your mind, you've now developed these unhealthy ass habits. You probably even stopped going to the gym because you're so busy doing everything for everybody else that you forgot to do stuff for yourself. Another physical sign is you start neglecting your personal appearance. You don't even give a fuck how your uniform look. I will tell you this real quick. I know that I'm stressed out when I start growing my hair out. When I start growing my hair out, I know that I'm already in a stressful space. And every time I think about it, and there's a couple of pictures of me with hair, but when I start growing my hair out, like that means that I don't give a fuck. I'm in a bad space right now. Like check on me and ask me how I'm doing if my hair is growing out, because that means that I stopped giving a fuck. But for other people, that means that you don't really care how the uniform fits you. You got that bacon collar, you know what I mean? Where that collar's hanging down in the middle of your blouse type thing. You starting to, I don't really care how my weight looks. Like, even though my stomach hanging over, I'm okay with that. You really just you started neglecting how you look. And that's a sign that you're not the priority anymore. The moment that you stop caring about how you look and how you feel, you no longer the priority. And I'll say that again. Like when you just putting on whatever just for the sake of it, you know what I mean? You walk by that mirror and you know you look fucked up. You know you look fucked up. You no longer care. That's because you no longer the priority. Now, if we talked about the physical signs, we know for a fact that there's got to be mental and emotional. And I will say this real quick because I don't know who need to hear it. The moment that you is in autopilot, you have reached a space of you are no longer the priority, that you just trying to get through things. And because you now in autopilot, you agree to shit that you know you should have said no to. You constantly overwork because you're not even there. You just going through the motions. You done raise your hand for shit that you just like, all right, well, I'm just going to do this anyway. The moment that you wake up, get to work, you already have hit autopilot and you ain't even present. And the problem with not being present is that you don't react in real time. You just go through the motions. You just shrug your shoulders and you just do what you need to do. You don't voice your opinion. You kind of silent. That's because you feel like you're not there. You feel like your opinion doesn't even matter. And when you feel like your opinion doesn't even matter and you constantly on autopilot, guess what? You're not even the priority in your own life. Another mental and emotional sign is that you start feeling resentful. You know what I mean? Just like when I mentioned early on in this episode, you know for a fact that you should have said something to that person, but because you didn't say anything, it's not like that went away though. You know what I mean? Like that feeling didn't go away. Even though you put yourself second and you smiled and you shrugged your shoulders and you said, it's okay. You deep down still hate that person. You know for a fact that you should have said something. Even if it ain't even an op or an enemy or a coworker, maybe even a friend, a loved one, someone in a relationship, you know for a fact that you should have said something, but instead you put yourself in second. And now every time they keep asking you about stuff, you slowly develop a resentment. And then you blow up. You blowing up because you never expressed how you truly felt. And when you didn't express how you truly felt, congratulations, you're putting yourself second. You're not even a priority. And I cannot stress this enough. You have to make yourself the priority. Because if you choose not to make yourself the priority in your life, right? Like you're not number one on your list and you constantly put other people first, you will start to resent yourself. You're going to be hard on yourself. You're going to say negative shit to yourself. You think that when nobody else around, you driving home and you ain't got no music playing, you think you saying kind things to yourself? Come on now. You know you got some shit on your damn chest that you got to get off. And you know you got to get off of it because of the simple fact that you know for a fact that you should have been number one, but you chose to be number two. So now that we talked about the signs, we talked about what the cost is, we also talked about what it looks like to neglect yourself. Let's talk about what it looks like to prioritize yourself. And I will say this real quick. The best analogy that I have ever heard is the airplane analogy. You know what I'm talking about with the oxygen mask? Everybody been on a plane before. And before that plane takes off, they always talk to you about what the oxygen mask is for and what you need to do first. Because when that mask drop, you can have a kid there. You can have a grandmother there. You can have your spouse there. They said, before you tend to any of them, put your mask on first. Because I'm going to tell you right now, ain't nobody else on this flight going to help you with your grandmother. They ain't going to help you with your kid. They ain't about to help you with your spouse. They going to deal with themselves first. So you better take care of you so that way you can take care of everybody else. And I'll say that again. You better take care of you so you could take care of everybody else. And that's what it looks like to prioritize yourself. You know what I mean? You got to go to lunch. You damn right you fucking do. You ain't got to skip it. You ain't got to stay late, you know? Especially if you know for a fact the task's going to be there tomorrow. Especially if you know for a fact that it's going to be there on Monday. You worried about taking care of the Marines, but I'm going to tell you this real quick. You are one of the Marines that still needs to be taken care of. Because if you can't take care of the Marines, you think somebody else going to take care of the Marines? And I'm going to say this real quick. That means that you got to take care of yourself too. It ain't no shame in that. Ain't no shame in that. What are some practical steps of what it looks like to prioritize yourself? You ain't got to rush when you getting ready. Take a real shower. Put that face cloth back on the rack. You know what I mean? You over there rushing to get to something. Man, take your time. Wake up so that way you can take your time, but take your time. Take your time putting your uniform on. Don't go into autopilot. Actually interact with everybody. If you don't like it, say something. Be respectful, but say something. When it's time to go to lunch, grab your shit. Go to fucking lunch. Even if you ain't gonna eat. On the weekends, you ain't gotta always sit there, man. Get up, go out. Ain't no shame in fucking taking yourself out. Do things that will bring you joy. Let me rephrase that. Do things that show that you are the priority. Because I cannot stress this enough. Everybody else has a list, and I promise you this. Everybody else is at the top of their list. They're at the top of their own list. I guarantee you walk in there right now and you ask them, be fucking for real, they're going to say, I'm at the top of my damn list. So why aren't you? Everybody can't be at the top of your list. You have to be the top of your list. Because if you're not at the top of your list, how are you supposed to take care of everybody else?
And just like that, another extraordinary thought left this ordinary mind. I hope you enjoyed this episode half as much as I enjoyed making it. Don't forget to head on over to your favorite streaming platform, whether that's Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, and leave this podcast an honest review because this podcast deserves to grow just as much as we do. Also, don't forget to head on over to TikTok or Instagram and follow me at Meech Speaks. That's right, Meech Speaks. Meech is spelled M-E-E-C-H. Stay motivated, stay healthy. I'm out.